All right, folks, we're now going to be continuing, and I am going to skip over Leviticus chapter 8, 9, and 10. Actually, I'll read a little bit of 10, but 8 and 9 basically talk about different sacrifices, offerings, tabernacle worship in regards to the priests. Okay, and again, since we are under a different priesthood, under the priesthood of Melchizedek, through Yahusha HaMashiach, I don't believe those things apply right now. Okay, and I explained that in a previous video if you want to go back and watch. But let's look at this story here in Leviticus chapter 10, story of Nadab and Abihu. Okay, very important story, something we can learn from it. Verses 1 to 7. Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took a censer and put fire in it and laid incense on it and offered strange fire before Yahuwah, which he had not commanded them. You see, this is why it's important not to do things your own way. If the Father has established statutes and commandments regarding sacrifices and offerings, and you go ahead and do it your own way, that's dangerous, because now you're doing it your own way, and he didn't command. There's some cross references here. I won't get into that right now. Verse 2, Leviticus 10. Fire came out from before Yahuwah and devoured them, and they died before Yahuwah. See, these guys didn't even have a chance to offer up their sin offering, right? As we read before. They didn't have an opportunity. They didn't have an opportunity to bring their bull and then bring it to the priest and then for their sin to be forgiven. They didn't even have a chance. And that's what I'm saying about you, Christians, and all of us. You need to be fearful of his wrath. You need to be fearful of his wrath. What happens in Christianity is they desensitize you to the wrath of the Creator by preaching a false grace, false love message, to think that he's going to let you get away with everything. He might not. He might not. He might cause a sickness to come upon you because you are transgressing the Torah. Again, look at Christianity as a whole. Look at the chaos that's going on. Think about the church that you go to right now, Christian. Maybe nothing like that has ever happened. Maybe it has and you just don't know about it. How many people do you know have died of sicknesses and diseases at a young age? Think about it. How many people's children are possessed with demon spirits and are very rebellious and worldly and carnal and sexually active? How many people do you know in your church? These are things you have to examine and question. Why is this stuff happening? Okay? Well, let's keep going. Then Moses said to Aharon, "This is what Yahuwah spoke of, saying, I will show myself set apart to those who come near me, and before all the people I will be glorified." Be glorified, be glorified. Sometimes when you're asking Yahuwah to be glorified, you're asking for a little bit of his wrath. You need to be careful what you're asking for. Aaron held his peace. Aaron was quiet. Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the son of Uzziel, the uncle of Aharon, and said to them, "Draw near, carry your brothers from before the sanctuary out of the camp." So they came near and carried them in their tunics out of the camp, as Moshe had said. Moshe said to Aharon and to Eleazar and to Ithamar, his sons, "Don't let the hair of your heads go loose, and don't tear your clothes, so that you don't die, and so that he will not be angry with all the congregation. But let your brothers, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which Yahuwah has kindled. You shall not go out from the door of the tent of meeting, lest you die, for the anointing oil of Yahuwah is on you. They did according to the word of Moshe. So, very important stuff. Don't do it your own way. Okay? This is why I'm a little, even though there were offerings and sacrifices done before Moses, right? As we explained in our previous videos, Abel, Cain built altars, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, even Moses, okay? Tons of people built altars before Moses. Now, should we be building altars now? You know, when I see a story like this, it makes me want to make sure I need to do my homework and my research and make sure this is something I can or cannot do. Okay, I am satisfied with what the Messiah did. I'm very satisfied. Leviticus 11. We're at 6 minutes. We're doing good. Leviticus 11. Oh yeah, we are going to read this whole chapter. We're going to read the whole chapter. This is about clean and unclean animals, which you should and shouldn't eat. Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, saying to them, speak to the children of Israel, saying, these are the living things which you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth. Whatever parts of the hoof and is cloven-footed, and choose the cud among the animals that you may eat. Nevertheless, these you shall not eat, of those that chew the cud, or of those who part the hoof, the camel, because it chews the cud but doesn't have a parted hoof, is unclean to you. And the next one here we have the rock badger, or the connie, or the hyrax, because it chews the cud but doesn't have a parted hoof, is unclean to you. The hare, because it chews the cud but doesn't have a parted hoof, is unclean to you. The pig, because it has a split hoof and is cloven-footed but doesn't chew the cud, is unclean to you. You shall not eat their meat. You shall not touch their carcasses. They are unclean to you. Now, so far from verses 1 to 8, I don't see anything about the priest in here. I don't see any need for the priest in here. This is for any common Israelite believer. Okay. Verse 9. These you may eat of all that are in the waters, whatever has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, that you may eat. All that have fins and scales in the seas and rivers, all that move in the waters, and all the living creatures that are in the waters, they are an abomination to you. Okay? All that don't have fins and scales, they are an abomination to you. And you shall detest them. You shall not eat of their meat, and you shall detest their carcasses. Whatever has no fins nor scales in the waters is an abomination to you. No catfish. Okay? No catfish. Some people debate about tuna. Okay, some people say that tuna does have scales on it. You just can't see it with your own eyes. It's actually, you have to zoom in. So it's a debate. People say, well, you shouldn't have to zoom in. It should be observable by your own eyes. I totally understand that, and it's worth debating over. Verse 11, and you shall detest them. You shall not eat of their meat, and you shall detest their carcasses. Verse 12, whatever has no fins nor scales in the waters is an abomination to you. Verse 13, you shall detest these among the birds. They shall not be eaten, because they are an abomination. The eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are an abomination to you. Yet you may eat these of the winged creeping things with wings that go on all fours, which have long jointed legs for hopping on the earth. Those you can eat. Even of these you may eat any kind of locust. Okay, so John the Baptist wasn't breaking the Torah, and I've heard this from Christians. Oh, well, John the Baptist was breaking the Torah. He was eating locusts. Well, you need to read Leviticus 11. You need to read Leviticus 11, man. I mean, plain and simple. Just read it. You don't know what you're talking about. Any kind of katydid, any kind of cricket, and any kind of grasshopper. So these you can eat. But all winged creeping things which have 4 feet are an abomination to you. By these you will become unclean. Whoever touches their carcasses shall be unclean until the evening. Whoever carries any part of their carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Every animal which has a split hoof that isn't completely divided or doesn't chew the cud is unclean to you. Everyone who touches them shall be unclean. Whatever goes on its paws, among all the animals that go on all fours, they are unclean to you. Whoever touches their carcasses shall be unclean until the evening. He who carries their carcasses shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. They are unclean to you. I do these things. I wash my clothes if I do something like this. If I found that I did this, I wash my clothes. There's no issue there. I don't see why that's a burden. These are they which are unclean to you among the creeping things that creep on the earth: the weasel, the rat, any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. These are they which are unclean to you among all that creep. Whoever touches them when they are dead shall be unclean until the evening. Anything they fall on when they are dead shall be unclean, whether it is any vessel of wood or clothing or skin or sack, whatever vessel it is with which any work is done, it must be put into water, and it shall be unclean until the evening. Then it will be clean. Every earthen vessel into which any of them falls, and all that is in it, shall be unclean. You shall break it. All food which may be eaten, which is soaked in water, shall be unclean. All drink that may be drunk in every such vessel shall be unclean. Everything whereupon part of their carcasses falls shall be unclean, whether oven or range for pots, it shall be broken in pieces. They are unclean and shall be unclean to you. Nevertheless, a spring or a cistern in which water is gathered shall be clean, but that which touches their carcasses shall be unclean. If part of their carcass falls on any sowing seed which is to be sown, it is clean. But if water is put on the seed, and part of the carcass falls on it, it is unclean. So when that water makes contact with that seed, don't intrude. If any of these unclean things fall on it, don't eat it. If any animal of which you may eat dies, he who touches its carcass shall be unclean until the evening. He who eats of its carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. He also who carries its carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Every creeping thing that creeps on the earth is an abomination. It shall not be eaten. Whatever goes on its belly, and whatever goes on all fours, and whatever has many feet, even all creeping things that creep on the earth, them you shall not eat, for they are an abomination. You shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creeps. You shall not make yourselves unclean with them, that you should be defiled by them. See, we got uncleanness, defilement. This is a moral issue. This is not some ceremonial. This is not ceremonial. This is something that defiles you. These are things that are an abomination. This is moral. For those of you who like to break the commandments into what's moral, what's civil, ceremonial, even though those categories don't exist in Scripture. But this is very moral. Okay? This stuff can defile you. It can make you unclean. It can cause you to sin because it's an abomination. Verse 44, for I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Set apart yourselves, sanctify, set yourselves apart, therefore, and be set apart, for I am set apart. You shall not defile yourselves with any kind of creeping thing that moves on the earth. So many times in Christianity, you like to sing songs, even I, as a previous worship leader, make me holy. You are holy. You are holy. Make me holy. I want to be holy. Set apart for you. We sing these kind of songs, but we don't embrace Leviticus chapter 11 because we think that Paul said it's done away with, even though the Messiah himself said it's not done away with. And he didn't come to do away with it. He actually told his disciples to obey it. And he told his disciples to make disciples, teaching them to obey it. This is why there's a lot of problems in Christianity. For it says here, you shall not defile yourselves with any kind of creeping thing that moves on the earth. For I am Yahuwah who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. You shall therefore be set apart, for I am set apart. This is the law of the animal and of the bird and of the living creature that moves in the waters and of every creature that creeps on the earth, to make a distinction between the clean and the unclean and the clean, and between the living thing that may be eaten and the living thing that may not be eaten. This is foundational, guys. Foundational. And I will be getting into this more once we get into the Brit, the New Testament, okay? I will be getting into this. Did the Messiah say we can eat all meats? Did he declare all foods clean? Yeah, all foods. Food, according to the Leviticus chapter 11, is meats and animals and birds and creeping things that are permissible to be eaten. That's what food is to an Israelite. Food to an Israelite is not eating pork. That's not food. So the context of that story, and I will be getting into that, that's not what it is. But I just want to bring up a couple scriptures here just to see the relevance without getting into it so much. Just to show you that this is not something that's done away with. Okay. Let's see if I can find it off the cuff here because I don't have it in my notes. Isaiah 66. And this chapter here is about the end times. Verse 17, Isaiah 66:17. Those who sanctify themselves and purify themselves to go to the gardens behind one in the middle, eating pig's meat, abominable things, and the mouse, they shall come to an end altogether, says Yahuwah. This is talking about the judgment day. This is talking about end times. Verse 16, Yahuwah will execute judgment by fire and by his sword on all flesh, and those slain by Yahuwah will be